I feel like we're ready for a photo.
Well, at least something that's going to be fun and
I
learn
mean,
about a different way to do it.
look at
too.
us sitting here in this awesome
Yeah.
background.
Yeah. Background. Wow. Look at
So
this.
I have heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
It is. It is. And picture and a face and a voice to support it. Pretty awesome.
And today we're going to learn about that.
Yep.
We have this incredible guest,
Incredible.
and his
Good man.
journey through life has been amazing, from the Navy to law enforcement to amazing photographer and businessman.
In the service.
I said that, Navy.
Law enforcement. Yeah.
He doesn't listen to me. What the heck? Let's welcome this amazing photographer,
Mister.
businessman, and friend for many years, Tom Milne. Thank you for joining us. We are here at Milne Photography today.
Yep. Legendary spot in the community. Been here growing over the years. Everyone seems to know where this is at when I use it as a reference point. So he's done a
Absolutely.
good job of making a landmark of his business.
Welcome.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. We invaded your space here, but so today we're gonna learn about you. It's all about you. We're gonna talk about your journey through life and how you transition to all these different things.
Yeah.
We are gonna start though by having a word association. We're gonna
We're famous for this, actually.
Yeah.
Whenever I started this process, and you get to play along now.
Okay.
What kind of game
So
you
here
throwing
we're
me
gonna get
into
you all
here?
loosened up, okay?
Word association is fun.
So I'm gonna say a word, and you are gonna say the first word that comes to mind. Okay?
This could be dangerous.
It could be dangerous, so hold on. Watch out. Navy.
The start of my career.
Community.
I think everything I've done through my life has been part of a community. And
I love
I know
that.
that's supposed to have been one word, but I think sometimes we need to start embracing our community, ups and downs,
For sure.
and supporting the local businesses and community as a whole.
Right. I love that answer. That's great. Art.
Comes in many fashions.
I love that answer. Okay. Family.
Something we should embrace every second of our life.
Portrait.
That's part of family. It shows the unity of family.
Yeah, I love that.
Love that.
There's a lot of statistics and studies that have been done. If you're hanging family portraits showing your loved ones within your home, it shows the unity within your family, and the joy of love and how much you enjoy each other, love each other, and
Yeah.
embrace each other.
Love that.
Going back to a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
That's
Very much so.
amazing. Creativity.
I think that's one of a lot of artists' fuel. The way we fuel our life and feel good about ourselves, our purpose, if you will.
Yeah. Okay, here's one.
I feel like I'm kind of getting thrown under the bus here a little bit.
Here's one.
No, this is good.
Entrepreneurship.
And something that you are
Yeah, this,
known for.
Yeah.
I'm known for it, but be honest with you, the start of my career, I didn't think of it that way. You know, it's I've made different changes, you know, through my career and so forth, and it's something that artists have a really hard time with, is learning the business side of it.
Right, it's totally different.
We fail at it many times. And for that purpose, not to sidetrack you a little bit, I started mentoring a few photographers local recently for that very purpose, is because as an artist, we want to be able to create, and we
Yeah.
don't put a price to our creativity and or our product, if you will, to give it out.
Right.
And then so many of us just give it away.
Right.
But there's a value there, right?
Right.
Sometimes we have a hard time doing that, and we just enjoy our payment. A lot of times is
Right.
the joy of giving it.
Right. Well, often when you start a business, it's because you love whatever it is that you're starting the business. It's not about the business part. So
right.
absolutely 100%.
Passion creates the results,
Right.
but a lot of artists can't get there, so for sure.
So that's amazing. Okay. Storytelling.
That's part of portraiture and
Yeah.
and photography, be it portraiture or photojournalist style or bringing a family together in a portrait or a child, just anything about them, showing their personality and bringing their personality out in a portrait.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hard part.
I think there's another step inside of that. Tom is always good for a good story. I mean, you
sure.
know a lot of people, and you've always, when you speak, you always bring direct reference and stories. I've always appreciated that.
That's the artist in him as
Yep,
well.
for sure.
Okay, law enforcement.
Something we probably don't appreciate as much as we probably should.
For sure.
I did have a short stint in law enforcement. I did retire back in 2000. We don't, I don't think as society really appreciate what most law enforcement people do on a daily basis, putting their life on the line.
Right.
Now, are there good and bad? There's good and bad in all kinds.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, all kinds, right? We're people. We all make
Right.
mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah. I love your one-word answers. They're great.
Well, you know that. I don't ever do what I'm told, right?
She always says, I'm never short of words. I'm with you, bro.
Okay. Our last one, branding.
Well, that's, it's branding is what people, all businesses do, but you have to be able to recognize a business and or a person, if you will, by
Their brand.
a logo, their brand. Well, you can call it a lot of different things, right? But your brand is more than just a logo. Your brand is what you provide,
Right.
the service you provide, the
Person behind it.
the whole behind the scenes. I think a lot of
Right.
problem now in a lot of businesses, we forget that not just the personal touch, but the customer service touch.
Correct.
Right?
We are going to talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
That's a hard-
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So really quick before we get off, we are done with the word association. So take a breath.
Well, I kind of failed at that, didn't I?
Oh, you did great. You did great.
No, it's always fun to
No.
see how our guests actually spin off of that, because sometimes
great.
it's tied to a word, sometimes it's tied to a sentence, and the sentence sometimes has to be brought back to a word, and it still works, goes
Yeah,
both ways. So it's
it
really
does.
awesome. I mean, sometimes it's pretty interesting to see those expressions.
So I got to go back to branding because so you and I have known each other for a long time. You guys have
Yep,
known each other
yep.
too. We knew each other through the bridal world.
Yep.
And I remember a lot of bridal shows that we did together. And your branding at that time was your cute little Mini Cooper that you would bring
Yep.
into that bridal show. And I was always like, how in the world did Tom fit in that thing? But it was like your brand.
Solid
like,
6'4".
Yeah. How tall are you?
Give or take 6'4", depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling good that day, I'm good 6'4". If I'm not, maybe 6'3".
Yeah.
Stand it whether you're
Standing
tall
there,
or not.
still sliding into a Mini Cooper, a two-door
Man.
Mini Cooper, not a big one.
That was a big part of your brand at that time.
Man, everyone knew
And
that little blue car.
That was so cool. You really did a good job with.
That by far was the best marketing tool
Yeah.
that we had. When I was looking for, at that point, that's when we were just starting the studio, right? Starting
Yeah.
the business. And I was trying to figure out, I needed a car. I needed a vehicle, because at that point, I had just retired. I had no vehicle. I was driving my wife's little Miata.
Another small car.
You think about getting into
Was it a convertible?
It was a convertible.
Nickname
and it was,
Grape Ape
don't
is
get me
already-
wrong, it was a nice car, but it wasn't the nice car for me.
Me, yes, correct, yes.
It fit
Mind you,
my wife,
your wife
so
is
no,
Well, she's a
petite,
cute
yes.
little thing.
She's
So
petite,
yeah.
exactly.
Fit her perfect. But anyway, we looked at a lot of different things, and I was trying to think out of the realm. And at that time, I don't know if you remember or not, you had a lot of people buying the Hummers.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
the big Hummers.
Oh, big.
At that point, there were, I think, maybe too many Coopers in Fresno.
Right.
I had to go to Stockton,
Wow.
or L.A., Stockton, or San Francisco to try to find a Mini Cooper. I finally found it. Best marketing tool ever. People
Yeah.
still talk about it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went through a few of them,
Yep, you did.
but there's roomy. I don't know if you've ever been in one. They are very roomy inside.
You can convince me a lot of things, but 6'3"-ish.
I'll get another one and we'll go for a drive.
Okay, fair enough.
Funnest little car.
I mean, you getting out
Oh,
of that
especially
thing
the
was
new
like.
ones. They're sporty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Anyways, that was great.
What's that one show, The Incredibles? So I used to take,
Yes,
the kids,
yes.
take the kids to school and all their friends, in elementary school. oh, Mr. Incredible's getting out of the Mini Cooper. I'm like, it was just the funniest thing.
I
awesome.
love that. Oh my goodness.
But it was a great brand.
Well, the little logo in the back window, and you run around, saw you everywhere in town.
People
That's the
thought
name
I
of the
had a
game.
whole fleet of those things. I only had one at a time.
One at a time. Well, we want to back up a little bit and start with where your career began. You began in the Navy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I started out as, I went in the Navy as undesignated. That's when you don't have a job and they just put you where they want you, right?
Okay.
I didn't have any guidance at that point in my life, and I needed some guidance.
Great
So,
step with the military.
right?
I
Yeah.
regret
To be honest
not
with you,
going
a lot
in
of
as a young man.
people, I know there's been ups and downs with law enforcement and service and so forth, but for me, it was probably the best decision of my life to
Great.
going in the service. It gave
Yeah.
me some structure, gave me a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
So I
Time to
went
grow up.
right out of
Yeah.
boot. Yeah, it made me grow up, mature a little bit, which I wasn't.
A little bit.
and so
Men aren't at that age.
Yeah, we're
yeah,
so.
yeah. And so I right out of boot camp, I landed aboard the battleship Missouri as a deck seaman,
Really?
chipping paint,
Wow.
scrubbing the decks, and no sooner we got on board, we were headed to the Persian Gulf, and I'm like, this is probably not what I want to do.
Right, what you
Right?
signed up for.
I mean, I didn't tell you before, but I worked in a dairy, worked in a restaurant, and I was like, well, I could have stayed at the dairy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I
yeah.
could do this. And so I was a very strong swimmer, and they needed a pilot rescue swimmer on board. So I took the course, passed the course, became the pilot rescue swimmer on board. So I wanted to take it to the next level.
So
Wait, I have a question really quick that just dawned on me. Aren't you too tall to be in the Navy?
No.
no, that's
There's a lot
submarine.
of-
That's submarine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah, he would have
Well,
bruised,
I mean,
I was like,
bruised
wait.
forehead. Oh, there's a story about that too.
There's other stories about being too tall in the service, especially. I wasn't too tall, but it made it a little more
proposed
difficult
challenges.
getting around.
Yeah, ducking those portholes, right?
That's a whole nother podcast.
Okay. Sorry to digress.
No, that's good. That's good. Anyway, I wanted to take to the next level. I wanted to go true SAR, jumping out of the helicopter. So, because I was a
Yeah.
very strong swimmer at that point in my life. And I had to transfer from a seamanship. There's kind of different labels, if
Yeah.
you will, into more of the airfield. And there's only two airfields on board the ship. There was a photographers and there were weather guessers. Well, I didn't want to be a weather guesser. And there was only two photographers on
Weather
board.
guesser.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the weather. I'm sorry, but it is. Sorry. Don't sue me for that
I
one.
think it's going to rain. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Just a
Shame on me.
guess.
That's going to get me in trouble, that one.
Yeah, that one is.
That's okay. I've been in trouble before. So anyway, we were in the Persian Gulf. So I would do my day job, and then I would go at night and introduce myself to photographers and started learning photography.
How amazing
Wow.
is
And
that?
at that point in the Navy, it was unheard of it's called striking when you don't go through the school to become the photographer.
Yeah.
You learn it on the job training.
Sure.
So I just
What's a better way to
What else
learn?
am I going to do? I mean, we're at the sea. We're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We didn't
Right.
have all this stuff nowadays,
Right.
right? So I just started. Am I going to learn it? If I get it, then I get it. If I don't, I don't. So I was
Yeah.
very determined. I was told there was no way I was going to get it. So after about 6 months or so, I put a request in just to transfer in departments, and they had granted it. And so I started
Nice.
working as a photographer. And then eventually I took the test. They had to advance me because I
You passed?
passed the tests with flying colors.
Love that.
And, so they had to advance me.
And was this better than scrubbing the deck?
It was definitely better to swim.
Well, then, especially,
It was,
hopefully there's not too many down pilots either, so you're not swimming in the ocean. I mean, then we're here thinking you
know,
got to dive off the
fortunately-
side to go get the guy, right?
right. Fortunately, I never had to do that. Never had it.
Yeah.
And usually it's not necessarily down pilots on the ships. It's usually like a man overboard. Someone falls overboard or so forth. They still call it pilot rescue swimmer. It's the rescue swimmers.
Right.
But fortunately, I never had to actually pull someone out of the water. Now we did training. We did
Sure.
Yeah.
all the training stuff. You did it just like if it was live.
For sure.
Right.
But there was never. I can't claim that I did any live situations.
Well, lucky
Thankfully.
enough, our militaries have changed quite a bit, even since that period. Where a lot of that changed.
Oh, there was a lot of changes, right?
Yeah.
the pendulum swings both ways, a lot of times, right? And just hopefully it swings back, and it goes back and forth, right? Just somewhere we can meet in the middle, we're good.
Right.
But anyway, so I became a photographer, and then I went to RIT for the photojournalist course.
RIT is?
Rochester Institute of Technology. It was a Kodak school in New York.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So it became,
While you were in the military?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they put me through that. That's a
Nice.
whole nother podcast.
Man, we're going to have a lot.
We're turning
Okay.
this. We're turning this into a series.
The Milne series. That might break
We may have to break him out a little bit. Just kidding.
So anyway, after my years on the Missouri, ended up in Lemoore,
Right.
way from the water.
away from the water. Became backseat qualified. Started doing a lot of aerial photography, a lot of the SAR photography, and so forth. So that was a lot of fun. I don't regret any of my service time. Matter of fact,
That's great.
it was the best thing that happened for me, especially that time of my life.
How long did you serve?
6 years in, then I had 2 years reserve.
Okay.
But it was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people say, you get people that talk down about the service, or I had a bad time or stuff. I'm a very strong believer. You make the service what you want it to be.
For sure.
Get out of it what you need.
I have quite a few friends that have said exactly that.
You can do so much. You can learn so much. You can advance. You can get educated.
Yeah.
Man, the sky's the limit.
Sure.
Or you can sit on your butt and do nothing.
Right. Right. You took advantage of
Well, it's
everything.
our story of our world, right?
Yeah.
You're a victim or you're a doer, and that
Right.
seems to be the play.
So how did you go from the military to law enforcement?
Got out of the service. It's back in the Clinton days. They started trying to downsize. For some personal reasons, I went in and tried to get out. I got out. Went through the academy. Got hired on with Fresno PD. Was there for about 8 years. Was a reserve officer for a while, and then became a full-time officer and
Patrol officer?
patrol officer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is another podcast as well, because that had to be been
Be a patrol officer in any
really-
community in America has got to be.
Yeah.
There's a storyline.
There is, and especially in the early '90s when I was an officer, Fresno was. People don't realize how much crime was actually happening in Fresno.
Well, the world has changed. So now everything is at your fingertips. The minute it happens, we hear about it. And back then, things
didn't.
weren't as
No.
publicized, right? So,
Or even have the capacity to be
Right.
publicized, for sure.
Yeah, so it's.
and did you like being in law enforcement?
I
mean,
loved law
You
enforcement,
did.
and because I'm one that loves giving. I'm a very big giver.
Yeah.
I love taking care of people. I love helping people, and and the portrayal of law enforcement, in society in the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever it's been now, has been, they're bad. Is there some bad officers out there?
Yeah.
Yes, right. There are people that make mistakes.
There's bad
Unfortunately, a lot of
photographers.
times you're making not even split second, but you're
Right.
making like
Yeah, for sure.
fraction second decisions,
Right.
And very life changing decisions, right? So we second guess them afterwards. You can second guess anything and everybody afterwards, right? But unfortunately, I think we need to give them a little bit of breathing room, right? And really look at the situation at the hand when it happened, not necessarily afterwards. But as far as my time, I mean, we can get off onto that, I enjoyed my law enforcement time.
Yeah.
I took a medical retirement in 2000 for a lot of different reasons. But I don't regret any of my service time. And I still support, I donate as much as I can back to the community
I love that.
when I can.
That's
so
great.
That's good.
Yeah.
So most people would look at you as an officer and then go, how in the world did you make it into photography? But you already
loop
had
back to
that.
what you knew.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that is a launching point. So you tell us about how that came about so you're retiring out medically, and then you're going, what am I going to do for a living? Like, how did this happen?
Well, that was my expression. What am I going to do?
Help me. And
I don't know.
At this time, you're married and you have kids, right?
Correct.
I mean, so then there's extra pressure there.
Yeah. So,
Living up to life is a
Right.
part of it.
right. So we were newly married. the getting out of this, it was tough because you're giving up your not just lifestyle, but you're
Right.
giving up a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest part. Sometimes we don't look at, right? Because
Right.
when you put your whole heart into something, be it whatever job or thing you do, and then all of a sudden you're changing, right? And then all of a sudden you're giving that up to do something different.
It becomes
And
your
you give
identity, right?
100%, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest things I ever dealt with, the changing in business, is that I own every step I do every day. And so to change and take that change is, they say change is good, and it can be for sure. But boy, taking that breath and being, okay, here's a different lane. I got to go this way.
Correct. It was,
Resorting to a different option.
yeah, it's, again, now, naturally, that it was my decision. I didn't have to do it. It was my decision. But I don't regret the decision. Do I miss it in some ways? I miss a lot of camaraderie, and I miss taking care of people, right?
Right.
And I'm an adrenaline junkie. I miss some of the adrenaline part of it, right?
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that law enforcement is 90% boredom, 10% terror, right?
Wow.
And
That's a way to say it. Yeah.
you go from, about ready to fall asleep on midnights or something
Right.
to your adrenaline's
Chasing somebody down the road at
heart's
60
already
miles an hour. Yeah.
fall out of its, out of its
Right.
cavity, right? And so it's, I still remember my first pursuit in reserve, and we're not going to go into that one. My adrenaline was out of control. But I think, I kind of got off on a tangent. Reason I got out, when I got out of the law enforcement, I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do. I was still doing photography on the side. I would do
Okay.
little fun projects.
Sure.
And I would still do, little things for some officers and so forth. And it was all just fun,
Yeah.
hobby stuff at that point, right? So I got out and I created myself a job. That's pretty much what I did. I started a
Right.
hobby and I started creating myself a job. Went into a partnership for a very short stint. Then after that, we opened up our own studio and opened up at First and Knees with
one.
0 clients.
Ta-da, we're here.
0 clients and just a hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was told I would not be successful. But here we are today.
Yeah. Wow. What year was that?
That was in 2001
Wow.
when we opened this.
23, almost 24 years ago.
Yeah. So that was that's when because I went into this short partnership, and then when that wasn't going to work, we just decided I was going to do it on my own, and either I was going to make it or I wasn't.
For sure.
And if I didn't make it, then I'd find something else to do.
Right.
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 But that's the attitude that like we love about having people in front of us and talk about this, because everybody has a choice. We use that every day in these conversations, in these podcasts, and you do have a choice, and you have a chance. There's another chance every time, and you're exactly why we wanted to talk to you, because you made choices and you just went at it, and there's such greatness in that. Really.
Well, and there's so much risk. I mean, I think anybody who is a business owner knows that when you
Every day.
start a business, it's on a wing and a prayer, right? And you're like, okay, I can do it. You know?
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I mean,
and with
we're
ups
in the
and
throes
downs.
of that as we
Yeah,
speak, right?
yeah.
So with our business.
Yeah.
So-
So here you are. I mean, often when people look at you, they think, golly, I mean, in talking to people and your reputation on the streets, I've known you for a long time. Wow, Tom Milne, he has this going on.
He's got it
right?
together.
But what they don't see on the other side is all the obstacles that you went through to get here. Even where you're at now, because you moved from that little spot, First and Knees, and you bought this property here. And I'm sure that was a risk.
Yes.
I mean,
to say the least.
Yeah.
because now it's your home too. Like everything's here, so no pressure.
But, real quickly, Tom, one thing unique about Tom, and we've been in this community for a long time, and the one thing that we can recognize is photographers in this community, there's been some world-class photographers historically in this community, but I will tell you, not necessarily a business person. And that's the part where you've been talking for the last few minutes and saying examples of community and involvement. People, you become a a cornerstone of the community, and people know you, not only just your business. Your business is almost secondary to who you are as a person, and that's, I think, the great part about it, because photographers or any business is you say giving back and being involved in a community. That's
Right.
one of our big things, right? It's like
Right.
we want to be a cornerstone. We want to be someone we're recognized for who we are and what we do, what we're committed to do for our community. And congratulations, because you're a great example of that.
Yeah, the studio, as you mentioned, moving here was opening. I thought opening over there in 2001 was a serious leap of faith. My lease was up over there, and I needed more space. I was in 1,400 square feet, and I had grown out of that studio the first year we were there.
Right.
And I've been looking for spots from day one. I was looking for spots like, okay, where can we move to if we need to move? Blah blah blah. Right. And we looked at hundreds of places, but as my lease was coming up, I needed more space, and the space next door to me was open.
Oh.
So I contemplated about that.
Sure.
But they wanted, at that point, my lease, they wanted to go up 20% off of what I was at, which I had a good lease. I'll be honest with you. For what it was, I had a good lease. But they wanted to go up 20%. So it was 20% plus double that, right? Because I was going to take the space
Right.
next to
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, a lot of people feel that I'm this huge corporation and so forth. I'm just a mom and pop business.
Right.
Let's say I'm a paw business.
Paul business, yeah.
My wife,
She's been there.
she's
there.
helped a lot. She used to help me with a lot of weddings and so forth. She's, fortunately enough, being able to help her father out. He needed some help at his business, so she's been over there helping manage that some. So she's been doing really well with that. But opening up this studio we bought this place in 06. And I don't know if you remember kind of 06.
Man.
When the market was at its peak.
Extreme hot.
Yeah, I bought
Extremely
that
hot.
peak. And
Oh,
then,
good for you.
oh, yeah, no, thank you very much. I bought at
Shoot.
peak.
Lucky enough you stayed.
My real estate agent almost killed me because there were some signs of the market crashing. And we did 11 counters back and forth. And my real estate agent wanted to strangle me. But I had to. It was kind of like, okay, do we not?
Right.
We couldn't afford it. Be honest with you, this was a leap of faith. We could not truly afford this, but we could not afford not to do it either.
Sure,
Right.
for sure.
So it was one of those.
Investing in your own
leaps of
assets,
faith.
amazing.
Yeah, so it was one of those big leaps of faith too,
Right.
again. And so we decided, okay, let's do it. Let's sell our old house, move into the house, rezone commercial with mixed use,
Wow.
and build the studio. So the studio is all brand new. Well, at 06 kind of frame.
Right.
And the house is the old ranch home, and we made it livable.
Sure.
And we live in it, right? And it's our
Turned
home.
out to be a beautiful home, yeah.
Wow.
So-
And so at that time, you did mostly studio photography and you did weddings. But then you grew to now your backyard became a
We have a huge
outdoor space.
Yeah, the portrait studio base out that bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, most people don't know about our portrait studio or our camera room and or portrait garden. So in the
Right.
studio where we are at the moment, we do groups of 30 in here. I've done families of 30 in
Yeah,
here.
it's a big space.
In the back, I've done families in the back of 30. So we have a big portrait garden in the back. Just because I have the studio here, though, doesn't mean I don't go on location. I will
Right.
go on location.
Sure.
I love going on location. It gives me an excuse to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do something
we actually
different.
were excited, and letting us come here was exciting for us.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
So we, as you know me from weddings, because we did a lot of weddings.
You did a lot of weddings.
But about 6 to 8 years ago, I finally got to the point where it was like, okay, I was working 7 days a week.
Right.
I can't do that. I'm not getting any younger. I had to give so I finally did the right thing and got a business coach.
Oh, okay. I love that.
Because, like I said at the beginning, us artists have a hard time the business side of it. We can do the creative side of it, but when it comes to the business side of it, we fail. And that's why you see so many photographers come in and go out. They don't realize how costly it can be sometimes.
Right.
Well, the overhead of the equipment alone and all the hard pieces.
Yeah, the overhead here is crazy. But anyway, got a business coach. We really looked at the true numbers. And weddings were 80% of the work, 20% of the income. So it was the first thing that we cut.
Wow.
It was hard giving up. I still have today.
And you just
I cut it. I don't know if you remember,
I don't remember that part.
Not to pat myself on the back or anything, but we were voted best of Fresno for how many years?
Oh, man.
You know, and it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about that customer service.
Customer service.
You know, and I don't claim that I was the best photographer as far as creativity and so forth. Now, did I provide a nice product, a good product? Yes. But I think where we're very successful in is making sure that the bride and groom were taken care of.
The process.
And the process, right? And because a wedding photographer could really make or break your whole wedding day.
Oh.
I mean.
For sure.
The one vendor.
Right.
That could really make or break your wedding day is the wedding photographer.
And I did a little bit of photography, wedding photography years ago, and I shot on film. That was the stress. Now the digital world is another tweak to it, which I don't even have a clue about. But boy, what a difference in the cases how that looks.
Yeah, it is different.
You know, people always ask me, I mean, I was in the wedding industry for 20 plus years, and they would always ask me, like, what is like one thing I should put my money into? And photography is huge because that's going to be on your wall forever. Yeah. And so that was, and in any portrait too, family portrait or whatever. So obviously you took that very seriously. I'm sure in a way it was hard to give up.
It was very difficult. How do you give up?
In the phone calls.
How do you give up clientele that's knocking on your door and begging you to do it, right?
Right.
Well, now you've got generations too, right? Yeah, I was going to say, you're now generation referral and all that. Oh.
Yeah, and you know, and I still get calls today, Tom, please. The problem is if I do one, once I do one, I'm committed to a whole lot of
groove. Yeah. Well, you did it for me.
So to try to offset that, what I've started about a year ago, trying to give back, I started mentoring.
Love that.
So I get a lot of calls of people asking me to mentor them a little bit. Naturally, I can't help everybody. I can't mentor everyone. But I have about 4 photographers that we are mentoring at the moment, on and off, to try to help in that field and, you know, grow that field. And hopefully they succeed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? A lot of people think I'm crazy for trying to mentor and
work yourself out of a job in a way.
Yeah, in some ways, but no. I mean,
no, I think it's also carry on
it's
tool and art.
But you know, I learned from someone else.
Right.
You know, why can't I help someone else?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's just giving back.
Yeah.
And I get out of it probably just as much as they get. You know, it goes back to that satisfaction, that self-fulfilling, right?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think that's the interesting thing about giving.
Yeah.
You think you're giving, but honestly, like it feeds your soul too.
Oh, it does.
That's such
it really does.
Yeah.
So, but
I love that.
go ahead.
No, it's okay. So how often, I mean, when you talk about this mentoring, is it a weekly thing? And how does that work?
It hasn't been a steady thing yet.
Okay.
It's, you know, as people call me and so forth, I'll call and we'll sit with them. There's 2 particular ones that we sit with a lot.
Okay.
Which is fine. We're getting ready to, and I've been talking to a few other photographers that are that have been staples that I learned from for many years that are pretty much retired now. We're talking about actually starting an education seminars to try to teach some basics and you know naturally you can learn a lot from YouTube and all this stuff, but hands-on at University of YouTube. Yep. And a lot of people think the photography portion of the business, you know, they think photography of hitting the shutter, right?
Right.
But there is so much more to it than just that.
Even posing alone.
Posing
is a huge,
people.
Huge part.
Well, and do you find yourself thinking, is studio work waning in terms of photography world, in terms of portraiture and stuff? Is it because there's been such a diverse part of it? We've talked about armchair photographers. Do you feel that this is a section that is not as strong as it was before, or do you think this is just not picked up on because of the opportunities?
Well, as far as studio work, I think and this is strictly my opinion.
Sure.
Is I think the reason you don't see as many studios in town anymore is the cost.
Sure.
It is very costly to maintain a brick and mortar.
For sure.
It's easier to work out at home and just go on location.
Yep.
Right.
And still make a living, you can.
Yeah.
And also knowledge of the lighting.
Light.
You know,
Light
lighting
management.
is huge,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I hate to say, I think in some ways it's starting to become a lost art, especially local. I mean, how many studios are in town? I hate to tell you, I don't really know how many studios. I can
Right.
speak of
Right.
maybe
Oh.
2 other studios in town at the moment, off the top of my head, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But most everyone else is working out of their home.
Yeah.
Now, you know, is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily.
No,
not
it's just a
necessarily
cultural shift of some sort, but
But we do get a lot of calls of people asking, do you have an actual studio, right?
yeah.
There's a lot of legitimacy with that.
Yeah.
for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
If I could do old Hollywood style portraiture and that's all I did, make a living off of it, I would do that 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I
a lot of
love
fun.
it. I
your
love
favorite?
it. Yeah. Yeah. Just some old traditional,
Yeah.
classy portraits.
You know, we're seeing
Right.
an uptake since us getting the podcast world, places turning into podcast studios and doing photography blends. I've seen that in LA. So they're mixing the mixed use kind of facilities
Right.
just because of the diversity of where photography is
Right.
going,
For sure.
the digital world.
So when I think about photography and family photography, especially, I mean, babies and teenagers are probably the hardest to photograph.
And
I
the
would
ones
assume.
most photographed.
Right. So, how do you deal with the different personalities and moods that come in here?
Notice his body language.
Let's get ready for
Let's
this
talk
one.
about that.
Let it go get his helmet real fast. He'll be right back.
But that goes. Remember how I was just talking about a few minutes ago? Is a lot of photographers get into photography thinking that clicking the shutter is the whole thing.
Right.
Right. You have to be able to adapt to all walks of life.
Right.
And I think what benefits me a lot is my past, kind of like what we talked about where I came from, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a Navy photographer, photojournalist, learning the photography in that,
Yeah.
dealing with from people on the street to new enlisted
Right.
recruits to all the way to the president and everything in between and dignitaries. So the Battleship Missouri, I don't know if the Battleship Missouri was where World War II treaty was signed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
Wow.
the significance of that
Legendary
is
ship.
every dignitary, every port we pulled into, there was
yeah.
somebody coming on board. Well, guess who's photographed? Me and a couple of other photographers. And so you dealt with all walks of life,
Right.
good and bad. And then going into law enforcement, it was the same thing. It's just a different type of business,
different
right?
snapshot.
Yep. Unfortunately, you have to make arrests when someone does something wrong, right? Commits crimes, whatever. But you're also still, being very sympathetic to someone who is a victim, which I think is even more important than the rest.
sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you have to do the rest, right? But be able to have some empathy and compassion for, be it the toddler or, someone that just got hurt in some kind of way, right?
Right.
And, so that's the same thing in the photography. And I think that's where a lot of photographers fail.
Sure.
So, I'll get down on my hands and knees and deal with the kids. I'm very be someone with that's
Right.
very dignified.
Yeah.
I can't get my words out. But and just be a person, right? Do my words sometimes get me in trouble? Yeah. I'll say some off-color stuff, and the reason being though,
Oh, it fits sometimes, right?
it fits sometimes during the session. It makes people think and get out of their head, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoy it, and it's being able to work with all walks of life. You just have to put a different face on, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing in the wedding industry, right? I mean, dealing with different brides and or families, right?
The family,
because it's not
for
just
sure.
the bride,
Hashtag
it's not the
bridezilla.
bride and groom you're dealing with, right? You're dealing
Well,
with
there's so many dynamics in a family, and that all plays in
Everybody's got an
whether
opinion.
you're taking a family picture or
no way.
just in our family alone.
Just our family alone.
I mean, family,
strong.
right? So I can imagine that's a huge part of it is just dealing with all the personalities and then trying to capture the personalities. You know,
And that's a valid.
yeah, because in a photo on your wall, you want to actually see someone's personality come out,
Correct. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's an art in itself.
It can be.
Yeah. And so what do you love? I always love this question. What do you love the most about what you do?
What I love the most is seeing the enjoyment when the families get to see the finished product.
The results.
Right?
Yeah,
They get
that's
to
awesome.
see, good example, I was talking to Jacob, was it?
Yes. Our producer,
Sorry,
yes.
Jacob, I forgot your name almost. We have a Star Wars portrait up front of a high school senior.
Oh.
And the seniors, he's on the spectrum, but he's a Star Wars fanatic. And he really wanted to bring in his lightsaber and his outfit and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, this is what I love. I love the seniors or people bringing in something that says something about them.
Sure.
Right.
Even though I love doing the very traditional stuff, I could tell you all kinds of different things that people have brought into the studio. But I think it's great.
It's their care, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's there. It's about them. But anyway, with this senior, evidently they had a session scheduled with another studio somewhere, and the photographer or the company said they wouldn't do anything with his lightsaber. They didn't want him to bring his lightsaber. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought, well, bring it. Heck, I don't care. Bring in whatever you want to, right?
Bring Chewbacca. Let's
So
go.
right? Anyway, so we made a big deal. We did a whole smoke machine and everything with it.
I love it.
And so we printed one up for when he came in to the presentation. He was on cloud 9.
Oh.
And just see the enjoyment out of him and his mom and everybody. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I didn't want to make a sale, but that made the whole session worth it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
But that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times we've done family portraits, that they've never done a family portrait, or they haven't done one in years, or
Right.
or you bring in you call to do a family portrait because grandma or grandpa are getting elderly, and you're thinking it's kind of coming to that time where maybe they might not be with us
Right.
anytime soon. We don't know. And unfortunately, you do a whole family portrait and someone else passes for some other reason.
Right.
And it's just
Absolutely.
like, I always tell families, and if you don't have me do it, have someone do it. Do something. Have someone take portraits, and don't just put them in your phone, because how many
Right.
times you lose your phone?
Oh my gosh.
You lose your digital files. Yeah, I've lost them.
Oh.
Your phone gets destroyed. It falls off the back of the boat and falls in the water, and it's gone. You don't have it
Yep.
backed up.
Yep.
Whatever, or you leave it on the back of the truck like you could do, and then gets ran over.
Happens.
Not that I've done any of these things.
Happens. Yeah. Well, and I think that traditional timestamp, right, is where you're going, is that we've gotten away from some of that because of the phones
of
and
digital.
digital capacities.
Yeah, right.
But I'll tell you, those results really do create, and I'll tell you, as we were setting up, everybody was worried about Tracy and how, what she wanted to portray in this image, because the image is to her.
Am I high maintenance?
No, but saying that with the intention, because if you go in our home, number one most important thing to my wife is pictures.
I love pictures.
Number one thing. If there's not pictures up in our house of our family, there's a problem.
It just it does. I feel like what you do brings joy to people for a long time. It's not just in that moment, because a lot of those pictures, they stay on the wall forever.
Yeah.
Or at least for a very, very long time. I mean, you took Trevor's senior pictures, and they are in our hallway, and that is something that we'll look at forever. And so that is, that should make you feel so good that you literally get to bring people joy
create
for
moments.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's you hitting on a little moment that we just had we haven't talked about another side of the business. I'm gonna throw a wrench in.
All right.
Do it.
Is we've been doing custom framing for our portraiture for 18 years.
Yep.
About 4 years ago, we started custom framing for everything.
Oh,
We do a lot of shadow boxes, jerseys,
right.
everything. 6 frame shops closed up in the last 4 years.
Wow.
But your point, what I was bringing up, was about the family portrait. I had a lady bring in a family portrait, was from the early 1900s, of
Amazing.
her great grandpa and I hate to say, I don't remember all the different relatives, but it was 4 of them. A very dignified, traditional
Old
portrait,
school image,
old
yeah.
school portrait. And they only had one copy of, and she wanted it framed. So she went and had copies made of it so the family could have it. But it was of her family and her family history.
Right.
And you know, and unfortunately, if it's on the computer, a lot of people ask about digital files and so forth. It's going to get lost. It's not remembered.
It goes away.
It goes away.
Yeah.
That's why we sell portraits. We
Right.
sell wall portraits. You know, anything from a wallet size all the way up to a 40 by 60 wall portrait.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if it's not on the wall, if it's not printed, it's going to be forgotten or it's going to get lost.
Absolutely.
That is 100%.
I mean, I don't know if you guys do, but you know, we were just talking about looking through some of the old family portraits and so forth, and going through boxes and remembering stuff. You know,
Right.
it's like, you know, I can't find anything on my phone.
Right.
I take pictures of stuff all the time, right? But I'm like, where's that photo?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
There's 19,000 images on my phone the
Yeah,
other day. I'm like,
for sure.
19,000 moments. Crazy.
A lot of them are golf carts, just so we're clear.
Hey,
I don't know. There's a pretty girl in here.
I
We'll
know,
have
every
to-
once in a while.
Once in a while, with
So-
a golf cart.
Right, with a golf cart, right.
Hey,
Hey, I sell that golf cart.
what brings you to the game, right?
right.
So I look back, you prompted something me to think about. I look back on pictures that were taken years and years ago. And when you say they're like formal, they're often somber as well. People didn't smile. I don't know why, but
Oh, my mother used to do that.
oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Different cultures do it. Yeah.
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 They still do it. Yeah.
Do they?
And like my grandparents, the pictures of my grandparents are very, you know, somber.
Stoic.
You look at those pictures and you're like, man, you would think if you're sitting down to take a picture, you want to look happy. But it's different. I mean, I guess you see all kinds of different ways, and whatever they want is what you try to capture, right?
Correct. But that's the challenge.
Oh,
That's my challenge.
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
See, I
Push in a
that's what
room
it was
full,
like,
right?
okay, give me a challenge, right? You know, Dad's not going to smile. Okay.
Oh, yes, he is.
Watch this, right?
I could get one smile out of him.
Here, hold my beer.
He might not like it, but we're going to get him to smile.
Right.
Right. But that was the culture back then, though, right? So it's a
Right.
different culture now, right? And
Yeah.
definitely was the culture back then, and it's a different style of doing portraiture too, right? Because you're doing old 4x5 cameras.
Yeah.
I did
and
4x5.
Different lighting setups, and different
Yeah.
ways to record things. And I've used all of those, and I still have some.
Yeah.
People look at it, you got a 4x5? Yeah, I still
yeah.
have a 4x5. I learned on a 4x5
Hasselblad.
camera.
Yeah.
You know, and back in the wedding days, doing the old Hasselblads, you know.
Yep.
I learned in film. I love film. I'm not using it today.
No.
But it's starting to come back. So there's some people wanting to use film, right?
Vintage-esque.
And, you know, I think it's good, right?
It's like the old vinyl records, right?
Yeah.
There's just something there that looks a little different. Yeah.
So let's talk about juggling a business, thriving business. For a long time, you said you worked 6-7 days a week, and a family. A lot of people don't talk about this aspect of business, but I'll tell you that the juggle is crazy, right? How did you manage that with a wife, 2 kids? You're all living in your office space, your studio space. What is that like?
Well, it's chaos, right?
It's chaos.
But I think, you know, we all, did I always handle it properly? Probably not. You know, just like we all make mistakes, right?
Sure.
And we learn from our mistakes. And sometimes we look back and go, maybe I handled that wrong, right? But it's the studio, in moving here, there was a lot of concerns, right? Because we live in and working at the same spot.
You can't
So
check out.
You can't check out, right?
Yeah.
The benefit is the studio and the house are technically completely separate, even though they're on the same piece of property.
Right.
The garage separates them. There's no thoroughfare. We did that because I would have had to retrofit fire code and remodel the whole house.
Building, yeah.
Oh, wow.
When we built this place, I had a zero budget. I had no budget. This was, you talk about a leap of faith. This was well beyond my means when we did this. But I couldn't afford to buy rent more space either. So I was kind of like, well,
Yeah,
what do
a
we
future
do?
play.
Yeah.
Do I put $4,000 a month into a rent that I've been doing you know,
Right.
and then it's going to keep on going up? Or do I buy something that I own and put that $4,000 into something I own so that I have something
Right.
at the end of the day?
Well,
Right.
and that
So-
vision's worked, right? I
It
think
has
that's the
worked,
vision's
yeah.
worked. Yeah, that's been beautiful.
So, but to go to your question, I'm not trying to be a politician, avoid your question.
Yeah, here we go.
It's right. We had our moments, you know. I mean, there's a lot of great moments, but like all families, we've had our bad moments too.
Sure.
And you try to learn from them, and you try to move on and try to look at the good that we have and not the bad that we have.
Absolutely.
And I think it's been great in a lot of ways because I could just walk out of the studio and go next door and, give the kids a hug and kiss or something, and I can come right back to work.
Sure.
And
True.
so, I mean, for that aspect, it's been really great.
You can go grab lunch. You
Take
don't
a
have
lunch
to go
break,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for, kind of with the note that you had about you don't ever check out, that's the bad part. You don't
Right.
get to ever check out. So in recent years, I check out in a different way. We have some property up in the foothills. I'll go up the foothills, or I volunteer a lot for Break the Barriers. I've been on their board for many, many years, and we put on a lot of different things for the veterans
that's
and so
awesome.
forth. So I try to give back in that kind of factor. So I check out in the sense of not checking out in a bad way, but I check out in the sense of
Yeah.
I'm go out and help, and I'm giving back to the community as much as I can.
I love it.
Or I'm helping friends. And I can't tell you how many times people are calling me to help. I'm like, that's not my job. Hey, Tom, can you help me? You name it. Put up a fence or a plumbing issue or electrical issue. I'm like, I'll help you figure it out.
Well,
Well,
Thomas the Tool,
Now we
Tom the
know.
Tool type.
Right.
We need
I mean,
something done.
Hey,
We call Tom.
hey, how about a podcast? Oh, he did it.
He did. He
Wonderful.
did it. Okay, now you
for that.
check that off your list.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it's a lot of people don't know. Everything, all the sets and everything, I built everything here. The structure
probably why
itself,
they look at you that way.
I had hired and so forth built. But once we got the structure done, everything else has been done in the back. I did.
Yeah.
And naturally, I had some help a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I did. I learned.
So you are handy. I mean,
I'm
that
very
saved
handy,
you a lot of money.
Yeah. I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I know how to use a lot of tools.
Well, I was walking through that back portrait area and just remembering pieces that you were putting up over the years, and it's like, wow, and I thought exactly myself, God, this guy's handy, because I think I'm pretty good. But just to put a wrench in my hand is one thing, put a hammer in another. It's a pretty good job.
Yeah. I mean, creating those sets out of foam and so forth.
Right. Yeah.
And I learned that from John Burroughs over at Village
Oh yeah, yeah.
He had a set.
Another
He was-
legendary studio.
Yeah, very legendary. Great man. Very talented. One of the great photographers local. People don't give him enough credit. I mean, I learned a lot from him, his studio, just techniques and so forth. Great man.
I love that. So if you were to give advice to anyone starting a business, what would you say?
Find something that you love, right? If you don't enjoy doing it, go find something you enjoy doing.
Right.
Money's not everything. Even though we need to have money
Yeah.
to survive, right? We have to be able to make a living. I get
do.
that aspect of it. I've been offered many things to do many other different things for a lot more money than I'm making now, but it wasn't in something that I felt I was going to enjoy.
Giving
Right.
creative license to your skills.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people look at the studio here and so forth and think, oh man, he's doing great. Yeah, I'm doing well. And as far as a photography studio and now custom framing, we're doing well and we're doing better than most.
Right.
But if you really look at averages, go look at the averages what most photographers make as a living.
Right.
It's in the poverty level.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Artists
is.
don't make, and historically don't make money on the front side. Yeah.
So, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I think that satisfaction and that self-fulfillment is far greater than sometimes some cash in the bank.
Yeah.
Because if you're miserable and you're coming home miserable, what kind of family life are you going to have, right?
Right.
And what kind of life are you going to live? And so it goes back to what I was saying earlier about embracing what we do have.
Right.
Be it your family, be it your, like the studio we created here, and be thankful for what you do have sometimes, and not what you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Is there anything that people don't know about you? Like, what's one thing that's
What's
like
the hidden secret?
the hidden Tomism? What is that?
Here we go.
Secret. I know, that's a good question. I don't know.
We're gonna have to dig
Knew we
that
had
one
to
up
put him on the
later.
spot a little bit there.
I think, that's a good question. I don't know. I have a big heart. I'm a very big giver, and people know me for that. I am a very big giver. But
Is there something that you like doing? Like, are you like a closet karaokeer or a?
I sing so bad.
Hope it's in the
sing
shower and it
bad.
stays there.
Let's just say, I sing so bad. If I sing in the shower, the water shuts off. I am not karaoke.
Okay, no karaoke for
not
you.
Going there. I cannot hold a tune.
I think that's the blessing of an artist. He lives his uniqueness every day.
know,
I mean,
every
that's the
day.
part. But you also too have been a chameleon, and that's the part that's been amazing. That's what we tell people every day in these conversations: is change if you need to change. Find a passion. If it's your passion, if it can take you a direction that gives you fire, please do it. I mean, we're living that, especially for me. I mean, took my beautiful bride out of the bridal business, but at the same time, her skills and passion is where it's at.
It is.
I mean, it really is. It shows in your face. It shows, it hears in your voice, and it shows in your heart. And you're a great example of that.
Is there anything that's on your list of things you want to do in the future? Like, what's next?
I was thinking of starting a whole new business.
Oh my gosh. But
No
Kisa
golf
might
carts.
kill you.
I might not live through it because Kisa will kill me. If you don't know, Kisa's my wife.
Yeah, right. Mhm. Yeah.
I think my next step is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is start to try to give back even more. I give back by volunteering a lot for the veterans programs at Break the Barriers and being on the board over there, or helping, doing other things for other organizations.
Yeah.
We can go on and on, but I love giving back. But I think my next step of giving back is going to be closer to the heart and closer to the studio.
Sure.
Of trying to help mentor maybe a little bit more and start doing some kind of educational program. And unfortunately, we'll have to charge for it in some kind of fashion.
But it has a value.
But
Yeah.
being able to start educating and giving some of the younger photographers, be it young in the sense of, not necessarily young in as far as an age, but young in as far as where they're starting.
Where they're starting, yeah.
So there's a lot of very creative people out there and very talented local photographers that are extremely struggling, and they're wondering, how do you get this? I mean, I would love to have this. I'm like, well, yeah, but it takes a lot of work.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Are you willing to commit?
Work. Yeah.
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 Are you willing to
Put your helmet on. Let's go. Yeah.
And I think sometimes too is, in talking to some, and even just looking at our society. I mean, look at our society in the last 8 to 10 years, right? It's became very separated. Might be a good word for it, right? How do we come back together, right? How do we? It's okay to be different. It's okay to have different thought processes, and that's the same thing in the creative world, right? What I love, as far as a portrait, you might not like, and that's okay. Right.
Absolutely.
So, but how can we improve each other? How can we help each other get better at and have our own still style, if you will?
I think if anything I teach people in business is one thing too. You can have your passion, but you also have to know where the money comes from.
Correct.
So it's a delicate balance between doing X because it brings the biggest revenues in that enables you to do your Y.
Correct.
And I think that's a really big part of it. I fight that every day because in my heart and my business, I'm the artist in my way. I'm a customizer. That's what I love. I see visually what I want to build, but I know that's not going to pay the bills.
Correct, and I think that goes the same way here.
Sure, but you have enabled those.
There's a lot of photographers through the years I've talked to and so forth, and a few that I've tried to hire and so forth. They're like, no, I want to do all this real artsy fartsy stuff, right? And is that the fun? That is the fun stuff to do, right? Because then you get to play and you do all that stuff.
Right.
But unfortunately, people don't put that on their walls.
For sure. Yep.
So it's fun to have on your phone, but it's
Right.
not stuff that you're putting on
Yeah.
your walls. So I call it the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's
You got to
exactly
get
it.
that main course done first, then do
Right.
the dessert afterwards. So once you have your main course photographed,
Yep.
right, then do some
A
fancy
few fun
stuff.
things. Yeah.
It's kind of like the senior I was speaking about earlier, right?
Sure.
The young man that, are we running out of time?
No.
No.
No, not at all.
Jacob over there, you causing trouble. Anyway, the young man that we were talking about earlier, but with the Star Wars thing, right? We did a lot of nice traditional portraiture of him for mom and dad and,
Sure.
Right.
and so forth. But that was the meat and potatoes. Well, then we did the whole Star Wars thing. Well, that took us just as long as the rest of the session.
Sure.
Right.
But man, it really made his day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the
Are we going to
gift.
sell a lot of it from that? No.
No.
And that's okay. It's not what that's about. It really made his day, and it's probably going to make many years for him. He's going to remember
Absolutely.
that rest of his life.
That's.
Probably.
I'm going to tell you that's a recipe for success. I'm going to tell you that is one of the greatest things that Tracy, especially, is enables with us in our business is the give feels like you're giving money, but you're really not. You're giving results for opportunity, and you're also giving it to a heart. And I think the part is that people really appreciate the give of that more. That actually perpetuates your business and your person.
It does.
So I think that you have to get past the dollar bill in certain cases. And I mentor people all the time on how to do the structure, but I can't teach you the heart. So you're a great example of that.
That is very true. You can't. I mean, it's the same thing. A lot of people ask you how to become a great photographer, right? It's like I can teach you the structure of it. I can teach you the technical end of it. But trying to teach you personality. Right. I mean, I can tell you what I do. You can watch what I do.
Right.
You know, and you can copy me, and that's okay. But it needs to really start to come from your heart.
You got to live it.
Eventually, it needs to start coming from you.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of great artists / photographers that technically wise are far superior to me. But unfortunately, you might as well talk to that wall because that's the kind of personality they have.
Right.
Right.
And I hate to say I'm not trying to belittle them, but
Right.
but that's just them.
Their skill set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So they at that point they'll never be successful.
Right.
Right.
Because they don't have the
They have to have
personality
that.
for it.
So I'm seeing in lights the Milne Institute of Arts and Business. I like this because I mean I think that you're touching on something that you may have to reflect on.
Yep.
It's not just the art; it's
No, it's
the
not.
business.
Well, the business end of it, like I said earlier,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
The
big piece.
photographers,
It's the art and the heart
yeah.
and the business.
Right? It's the
We'll have to
you
make
know,
an acronym out of this,
Right.
right?
but
But all artists, you know, be it photography, be it painters and
Yeah.
so forth, really,
Right.
they may be extremely talented. I mean, a good example is I won't mention her true name, but my mother-in-law, phenomenal painter.
really,
People
I think about it. Yeah,
love her painting. She is phenomenal. I mean, the detail is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But she'll never do it as a business.
Yeah.
Absolutely never do it as a business. She does it because she loves to do
Yeah.
it.
sure.
You know, and she's been offered crazy money for paintings and turns it down, and that's okay because she wants to do it because for
Right.
Not our inspiration.
So our next door neighbor, Dorothy, at Christmas last year or the year before, she was showing me these cute little wooden Santas that she made, and I said, "Oh my gosh, can I buy one from you?"
Here's a lady that you would not think be making art pieces,
Oh my
little
gosh,
art
they're
pieces
adorable.
like this.
And she said, "I don't sell them."
No.
And then
because she enjoys doing it.
Yeah.
came over. We invited them over for wine one night, and she brought me one.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so sweet.
That's
But
the heart.
that was her. She's like, I make these, and I don't sell them. I give them to people that I want to give them to. And so there's some of that with artists, sometimes you got to find your lane, right, of how you want to do it.
So that's the part. Bring them to business or bring them to art. I
Yeah.
mean, that's which way you got to go. I think it's unique.
Yeah. So, okay, we've talked all about you. We can see your photos on your website where?
milnephotography.com,
Okay.
and the framing side is milneframing.com.
Oh man, some of this framing.
And spell Milne for those who don't know. Just saying.
MILN as in Nancy, E as in Edward.
There you go. Okay.
Photography.com.
And you are located on Knees between.
Millbrook and Cedar.
Okay.
On the south side of the street.
And do people need appointments to come and see you?
We work strictly by appointment.
Okay. And so
And the reason we do that is a lot of people will say, why can't I just walk in? It's not that I won't take a walk in. As far as a portrait session, you need an appointment to make sure we can prep for it. But, the framing side of it or other things, I don't know how many times you've gone to a business, right, to go pick something up or go do something, and either A, there's no one there to help you,
Right.
or they're closed for whatever reason. You can make everything under the sun, right? Our normal business hours are 10 to 4, Monday through Friday. But we work by appointment. And do I make appointments after hours, before hours?
Sure.
So I'm an early bird. You're not going to tell me too early. But the reason I make appointments is so that someone's here to be able to take care of you
To
when
pay
you
attention.
are here.
Right.
Sure.
And that's from like the pickups to the sessions to the framing. On the framing side of it, I have two ladies that work for me that came from Rolf's Framing and Gallery. Unfortunately, Terry Rolf is the one that I learned from framing. He passed away 4 years ago, or a little over 3 years ago. Great friend. Unfortunately, they worked for him for over 25 years each. Ended up with no job in their mid-60s, right? And then nowhere to go. So I was already set up for framing. So that's why we started the whole custom framing side of it.
Nice.
So for the framing side of it, that's why we make appointments, because they're not here all the time.
Right.
To make sure someone's here to take care of them. And, think about bringing an art piece, be it small or big.
There's a ton of detail.
Drywall over here and the front
Right.
door is locked, or
Right.
Right.
but there's no one here to take care of you. And now you
Or
gotta
the right
bring it all
person.
back, right?
Yeah, the right
And
person,
the right
yeah.
person at the right time.
And if you're taking pictures,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to help someone,
won't be able to help them,
So,
yeah.
right. So, okay. So appointment only, online, milnephotography.com.
Correct.
And we are so happy that you agreed to, we kind of duped Tom into this.
Yes,
So it
yes.
wasn't that painful, right?
Well, you gave me the wrong date for many times. We won't talk
to
about
keep
that.
you
We're not
guessing.
allowed to
She
talk
was
about that,
selling.
are we? She was
Thank you.
selling hard.
Yeah, I tell you.
I almost hired
live
her out
it,
from
trust me.
underneath you. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then I
How much this
said,
girl doesn't get when she really wants it, trust me.
we're just going to have coffee and chat. It wasn't that painful, right?
But I haven't had to finish my grumpy coffee.
Okay,
yet.
well, you can have your grumpy coffee when we're done, but we appreciate
Yeah,
you
thank you
so
so
much. It has been so amazing, your
Yeah.
career from the Navy to law enforcement to what you're doing now.
And to see what's next.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait either. I got to figure it out.
That's the fun part.
Oh, it's great.
We
Yeah,
really-
whatever I do, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And for those of you that this is your first time watching, you can subscribe, follow us on Resorting to
Resorting to
Success
Success, yeah.
on Instagram and Facebook,
YouTube, Instagram,
Spotify.
Facebook, Spotify.
Apple, all the ways,
Podcasts.
all the places. So
Yeah.
thank you again for having us. Now go enjoy your coffee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.
It's been fun.
Thanks.